everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Caribbean Blockchain Network interview series. And today we are interviewing Vladislav Dramaliev, who is the marketing director, was it, or consultant?
Not. I was the marketing lead. I'm
The
currently
marketing
head of
lead,
marketing.
the head of
Head of
marketing.
digital marketing.
Yeah, head of marketing of Eternity. And why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you, Vladislav? What is your background? And what brought you into this blockchain space?
Hey, so sure. So I've been into Bitcoin since 2013 when a friend of mine introduced me to the concept of Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin? What could be used for?
Yeah,
And at first I thought it's total. I mean, it's total box, and for me it was very strange. But then something in Cyprus happened, and then I got deeper into it, and I got interested, and that's how we started the first website for exchanging bitcoins in the country in Bulgaria. And from there on, I just really went into the rabbit hole, so to say, and got deeper and deeper into Bitcoin and blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and game theory and so on. It was very interesting for me. I really like how the sphere is multidisciplinary. It has a lot of different things inside. So that's how I got into Bitcoin. And so this was my first project. It was called Bitcoin.com. Then I founded coinfixer.com, which is a site with similar service, exchange of cryptocurrencies, basically like internet shop for cryptocurrencies. People can sell and buy cryptocurrencies as they do in an online shop. And then I founded bithub.org, which is a website which accepts cryptocurrency donations.
yeah,
And that is still going. Actually, coinfixer.com is also still going. And it's basically the bithub.org provided non-profits with the ability to start start accepting cryptocurrency donations in addition to their usual or classic channels. Um, and from there on, also in 2014 we founded the Bulgarian Bitcoin Association, and I was kind of hoping that it will develop into some kind of a community thing, that we'll have events during which we introduced cryptocurrencies to people, and actually did a lot of events myself. But this didn't happen. So that's why when in 2016, in January 2016, Yanislav Malachov
yeah,
did something like a meetup, the first meetup or blockchain meetup, big cryptocurrency meetup in Sofia. I said I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna turn it into a monthly thing. And that's how Sofia Crypto Meetup was founded, which is the largest cryptocurrency blockchain related monthly event in Bulgaria. It's also a Facebook group, Sofia Crypto Meetup Facebook group. And that's how I actually met Yanislav Malachov, who is the founder of Eternity. And a couple of months after this first meetup in 2016, he said that he's looking for some marketing person in Bulgaria. And I said maybe this could be me.
yeah,
And that's how I joined the Eternity blockchain project in 2016. I think it was November 2016. We were actually only 5 people when I joined the project. And from there on, I have been dealing with community management and marketing activities, social medias, Bitcoin Talk, Reddit, the blog. Actually, the blog is I've written a number of pieces related to blockchain and the philosophy behind blockchain, as how I understand it.
yeah,
Um, and I think my philosophy really fits well with the philosophy of Eternity.
yeah,
So I've been with the project ever since, and I kind of feel that it's also a little bit of my child as well.
yeah.
So this is, yeah, the last 5 years very quickly.
Okay. Eternity already started before the founder approached you, or was he thinking about starting the project?
He was thinking of starting it,
Yeah.
of initiating it. He was thinking about because he was kind of close to, I think, Vitalik, or they at least they spoke,
Yeah.
and they exchanged ideas. And Yanislav had some different ideas of how this world computer, let's call it, or a new type of blockchain, or a new type of blockchain project could really address some of the issues that he envisions in Ethereum. But he was thinking about how to organize it and so forth. And he was basically in the process of building a team. So I was one of the first team members that
The
joined the
team.
project.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was an idea, and at an idea stage when I joined. We basically started working on Eternity when I joined. There was not much done before that. I mean, in practice, there was a lot of talk. There was a lot of discussions, I guess. There were a lot of discussions, but we started working in practice to realize this more or less at the time when I joined.
Okay. So you were saying he had a different view on how to solve some of the blockchain related issues
Mhm.
before Ethereum came about. So when he was talking with Vitalik. Um, so what then makes Eternity different? I know that Eternity is a blockchain 3.0 and Ethereum is blockchain 2.0. Can you explain the difference between that and
I would say
what's the main difference?
I would say the primary difference is that um, blockchain 3.0, so all the projects that are called or could be categorized as blockchain 3.0,
Yeah.
they address scalability from the very start. So what Eternity is trying to do is to really have all of the different components that will be required for a well-functioning blockchain to be included inside of the primary protocol as first-class objects, so to say. It's a term which means that they are part of the protocol,
Yeah.
and they are addressable without the need of installing a third-party service or something in addition. And also, when it comes to scalability, we are trying to solve it with the introduction of a concept called state channels.
Yeah.
And state channels is it's the idea is very close to the one related to the Lightning Network in Bitcoin, but the Lightning Network only addresses transactions, while state channels also address smart contracts. So you can basically can run or can have state of smart contracts outside of the blockchain or off chain. So basically, this allows the execution of smart contracts not only on chain but off chain, which significantly, I mean, makes the system improves the system's efficiency, and also you can run smart contracts in parallel.
In parallel.
Basically, smart contracts could become something very private, so something peer to peer, that exists only, uh, or their state exists only outside of the chain. And it's the same with transactions. You can have unlimited amount of transactions. So this idea of transactions per second is kind of removed from from the off-chain state. You can have unlimited amount of transactions, and their speed basically depends on the peer-to-peer bandwidth between the peer-to-peer bandwidth. So the connection, the internet speed between the peers who are interacting with each other. And for on-chain, we are also implementing for on-chain scalability. We are also implementing Bitcoin NG, which is it's a blockchain protocol which has already been implemented in a number of other projects. Has been tested, and we believe it's very important for the user experience. So because before the user can go off chain, he still needs to do a transaction on chain. So we don't want the user to have to wait a long time before he can go off chain. So that's why we are also addressing on-chain scalability. So the idea is here to make a really, really efficient, really powerful blockchain system that is easy to use for developers, for entrepreneurs who want to build apps, and for users. And they can use that on their mobile devices as any other application. And I think this is the next thing, apart from scalability, apart from efficiency, or which is related to cost, we want to make it very user friendly. So
Yeah.
because when you think about it, you're not using that many or at all any decentralized applications on your mobile device. The only decentralized application that you're using is perhaps the wallet, the
Yeah.
cryptocurrency wallet. But we want to have, we want to allow people and companies to build applications that are not different than the currently existing centralized ones, but in the back there is a blockchain. So in the back end there is a blockchain which kind of allows for services or for some utility that is different from what centralized solutions can offer now.
Yeah.
So these are I think these are the primary things.
Difference. Yeah.
I would say from a technological point of view, because everybody is thinking about how many transactions per second can your blockchain do, or is your scalability the best kind of scalability?
Yeah.
I think you cannot say at this point because everything currently is R&D. But I think the most important thing will be which blockchain project can attract the most amount of useful, commercially successful, user-friendly applications.
Yeah.
I think this will be the main goal.
Yeah, because
think-
because you need adoption first, right? You need to have people actually using applications before you will start to see real transactions taking place instead of just people holding some Bitcoin in a wallet.
Yeah, exactly.
Then, because you said you guys are tackling scalability and yeah, so scalability. But I also know that you guys are also focusing on oracles. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes.
Like, how do you guys
Yep.
are?
So I mentioned these first class objects, which are actually part of the core protocol.
Yeah.
And they are not provided as services from third parties. So it's oracles and also the naming system. We want to make it. We want to have like human readable names for oracles, for addresses, for smart contracts, for anything, because it's very hard for people, or even I would say it's quite unfriendly, user unfriendly, to use a string of numbers and letters, which
Yeah.
is the usual way in which a Bitcoin or Ethereum address looks like. We want to have something like a naming system, not something like, but a naming system that you can, for example, associate your account with, or so you have like, you don't have to send this string of numbers and letters to somebody. You just send them a specific name, and they can use that to interact with you to send you some, let's say, AE tokens of cryptocurrency. And oracles are a very interesting thing also. So currently in a blockchain 2.0 projects, let's say, in order to use an oracle, you need to use a third-party service. And to use that service, usually, depending on what type of service it is, you need to have the services tokens. So you need to, if you're on Ethereum, you have Ethers, you have a smart contract which is kind of running on with Ether, with gas. But in order to use an oracle, you will have to have also another type of token. For example, I don't know, Augur tokens.
Yeah.
And then you can start using some Oracle services. Although Augur is a bit more of a prediction market, but yeah. So in order to have this, you have this inefficiency of having to use a different type of currency to provide this information, to get this information. And oracles are, what are oracles? Maybe this is a good thing to mention. But these are ways of how like the blockchain understands, or smart contracts understand how or what happened in the real world. So usually, currently what we have is APIs. You can, for example, create a smart contract directed to use the API of, I don't know, the New York Stock Exchange or something. And then when a certain price goes under a certain level, the smart contract can do something.
Yeah.
And but the problem with this approach is that you're relying on the New York Stock Exchange API to be correct about what is the state of the future and the current of the state of the world.
Yeah.
And there are other services that you can use that actually you you instruct them to look at the, let's say, the New York Stock Exchange, but then before they come to into your smart contract, they go through this third party service, which um, which verifies that this is really coming from the New York Stock Exchange, and they add this information into the response that your smart contract receives, so that you know that it's coming from the New York Stock Exchange, but the information itself, it's not verified. Um, and what we think is that actually oracles, or this information from the outside world, is at it's like at the center of the promise of the utility of smart contracts. So smart contracts usually, or I think they will be used for primarily for automation of different things, of different processes. But in order for this automation to happen, they need triggers. And these oracles or APIs, these could be triggers. And what we are trying to do is to provide a new type of trigger with the Eternity's oracles. So in Eternity, anyone can become an oracle operator. Basically, it's a specific type of address. And when you become an oracle, you can receive questions, like, for example, what is the price of wheat, or any kind of, like, who was the president, who became the president of Croatia, uh, any type of information. You can request this information from oracle operators, or from a single oracle operator.
Mhm.
And this is on chain. This is part of the protocol. You don't need to use a different type of service. You can use AE for this. So basically, you create a smart contract which runs off chain in state channels, and then you can program the smart contract to use the replies from oracles at a certain date. And let's say there is a pool of 1,000 oracle operators out there, and you can basically say, I will ask these 1,000 operators a question, and then I will randomly choose 100 of them, and then, or based on some other concept, or some other feature of them, for example, location or anything like this, depending on what information these oracle operators can provide, like for themselves, like maybe like personal information, age, location, or something, or no information. Or let's say there is no information like this. You just say, from this pool of 1,000, these 100 I will use for this reply, and whatever the reply is, like, let's say 60% said that this is the reply, then the smart contract is triggered in this specific way. And so in this way, you don't have to rely on a single informational source. You can rely on the crowd.
Yeah.
And at the first iteration of our oracles, we will not we will not introduce a like a consensus mechanism, or we will not introduce like specific information, or the we will require information from the oracles as the one that I mentioned, like for location, or age or name or anything like this. It will be simply possible to ask a question to oracles, see what they will reply, and then use this or not use this for your smart contract. But the big plus here is that you are doing everything inside of the chain. I mean, in like on chain, basically. You don't need a third party service for this. You can directly ask the oracles with a simple, like a specific type of transaction on Eternity. And I think this will affect cost dramatically. And oracle operators will also be paid for their services, in order to, like, if they reply to a question, and then let's say the question or their reply is included in this pool of 100, then they receive a small amount in AE for their reply. Or let's say maybe not part of the 100, but part of the 100 which whose answers are used in the end. Because, like, for example, some people might say no to a question, and like 80% might say yes. So the no's will not get anything, let's say, and the 80% other, they will get paid in some amount of AE tokens. And I think this is a very interesting um, model for the decentralized economy.
Yeah.
I think oracles could be very, very interesting for people who live um, like in non-Western countries, and this could be just a source of income for them, uh, just simply replying to questions through their mobile devices. A simple question that they need to just really do a small research, or like a very short research on, provide an answer, and then get paid for this. So I think oracles are very, very interesting. And the primary, I would say again, the primary plus of Eternity when it comes to oracles is that oracles are part of the core protocol. You don't have to install anything else. And also, actually, when it comes to Oracle operators, it will be possible to simply install an application on your mobile device and become an Oracle operator. So it's going to be very, very easy. You don't have to like do very, very complex stuff or program anything or do anything special. You will simply be able to use the voting app or a specific Oracle app that will get developed, and you will be able to quickly become an Oracle operator yourself. So and the other way around, you'll be able to ask operators different questions quite easily. So I think this is very, very, very exciting. And actually, integrated oracles was one of the reasons why I got very interested in Eternity in the first place. For me, it was very innovative concept, and I thought really blockchain technology and smart contracts in particular will need some kind of a new way of getting information into the blockchain, not relying on centralized services. So yeah, this is about oracles.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you guys are. I'm hearing an echo. I think from your point.
Sorry,
No.
I can. How is it now? Is it better?
Yeah. I think yeah. Now it's good. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. No. I think it's interesting that you guys are relying on the wisdom of the crowd to determine the correctness of the information that the oracle is given. But it will be like a model to achieve consensus. So because like some people might give information in a different way than other people. So
Exactly. So what? At first, it's going to be very, I think, very, very simple. You simply ask an oracle, you provide an answer, and if you think it's not a correct answer, you don't use it.
yeah.
Or as I said, you have a pool of oracles, you ask 100 out of 1,000, and you decide to use or not to use it. And currently, there are a number of projects which are trying to solve Oracle consensus. When we launch the Eternity mainnet, there will be no Oracle consensus mechanism implemented on top of oracles. But I think there is no need for us to really try to solve Oracle consensus, because it's also an R&D exercise,
Yeah.
and there have been a number of people or a number of projects who are trying to solve this, or trying to produce consensus models which could work, at least in most of the cases. And what we can do is, once we see which one of those is the best way forward, we can also implement it in Eternity. But I think the most important thing will be is the cost of using the Oracle, because a lot of business cases will simply not happen due to prohibitive costs of using a third-party application, like a third-party Oracle. And I think in our case, since everything is on-chain, everything is like integrated, or using oracles for different use cases will be very, very cheap. Um, So it also depends on how many, I mean, transactions. Like in the case of using third-party services, it depends on how many different transactions you need to do in order to get a reply from an oracle, um, and then how scalable the system that these oracles use is basically.
Yeah.
Um, and and I think in our case we are simply introducing something new. Like we are addressing the cost of using oracles, and also the the variance or the variability of costs can also result in basically some business cases or use cases for smart contracts to simply not get implemented because the costs are too high.
Yeah.
For example, using an application today, you're using Oracle Reply, for example, today, and you pay $1, and then tomorrow um, when the system is very heavily like loaded with like a lot of processing is going on, you have to pay like $5. So the business case might work for $1, but then it won't work for $5. So and this also introduces uncertainty on like on the part of the user, and the user might simply stop using the service if he cannot really rely on it because of some prohibitive Oracle costs.
Yeah.
So I think it's most importantly address the cost of the Oracle, and then in time when we see what problems our approach when it comes to how you use oracles, like how do you build a consensus of oracles, when we see what the problems are, we can address them and we can implement something that someone else is currently using, some kind of other like a consensus protocol for oracles, or generally